Hi everybody, this is Amy Rain with Ride as Rain Woodworking. Today I'm going to go through the process that I followed this morning when I made my very first charcuterie board. This project was to be a present for a friend of mine who recently had a birthday. And I actually was able to present that to her this afternoon. So it was a morning project, which is encouraging for anybody that's considering making a charcuterie board. As long as you have the right tools and you really don't need a whole lot, you can get it done in certainly one day or half of a day. So I will just show the processes that I followed, and I'll talk over those as we go and anything else that comes to mind, because as you know, the majority of my content is about lessons that I learned from God along the way as I'm doing my woodworking activities. We'll talk about anything that came up for me along the way. I hope you enjoy the video, and I will tell you there was a lot of sanding. If there's anything that you do more than anything else making a charcuterie board, you're gonna be doing a lot of sanding and shaping. I hope you enjoy, and here we go. Here you're seeing me use my orbital sander to clear off the rest of the bark and to take out any small grooves or lines or anything that are in the flattened slab piece. I did not have my camera set up early enough to show that this piece was actually cut out of a much longer, about a 6-foot long walnut slab. And there was bark on both sides that I chipped away. So what you're seeing here is after that part of it is done, and I'm just cleaning the board up to get it ready for the finer sanding, which will come shortly hereafter. Here you see me using these 4 little yellow pads that each have a different level of grit sandpaper attached to the bottom. I start out with 80 and work all the way to 220. The orbital sander had a 60 grit on it. So you'll see as I am sanding by hand here that I am using my brush to clean off the sawdust from each sanding grit between each of the grits. The point of that is to clear out any of those small particles so that they don't hinder the finer grit that comes next from being able to reach the surface adequately. Here you see me tending to a knot in the board. I decided to include the knot instead of cutting beyond it when I cut this piece out of the bigger slab, because I feel like knots sometimes create very interesting characteristics to a project. You do have to watch out to make sure that the knot is stable. If it isn't, you would need to drill that knot out and either replace it with or fill it with epoxy resin or leave it open depending upon your project. It can still add a lot of character either way. I'm using CA glue to fill a couple of small voids in this knot. I find the knot is relatively stable and I don't have any concerns about that for this project, but I do need to fill up those open spaces. So the CA glue I'm using is made by Star Bond, that's the name of it, and it comes in 2 colors, auburn and the black that I'm using here. This will also help just prevent it from any instability that could result later on in time. I'll spray it with an activator shortly after I fill the voids, and this activator will enable the CA glue to dry instantly. So one of the things that I thought of when I rewatched these videos and saw the work that I was putting into the shaping and sanding and just all the care I put into this board and preparing it as a gift from a friend, I thought about Psalm 103:14, and it says of God, for he knows our frame, he remembers that we are dust. And, the dust reference, obviously I thought about the sawdust that I was, kicking up with all the sanding I was doing, but it also made me remember that God knows all the areas that need to be shaped and smoothed and hardened up or strengthened. He knows me inside and out better than I know myself. And he is the master craftsman and really knows me. He's not some stranger. I'm not a stranger to him. He knows me, and he knows where I need his love and his teaching and his healing and guidance. And that was just an amazing thing. So that was the wisdom that I remembered of during this project from God. Okay, so here I am resanding the board after the surfaces have dried from the water that I applied earlier, and the grain has raised, and so now we're sanding that raised grain off. So when we apply our final finish of oil later on, we won't have this raised grain happening then, causing a less smooth surface on the completed project. The glue that I'm applying to the bottom rails is not intended to keep them in place permanently, but is there just to hold them in place once it dries so that I can apply pilot holes and countersink holes for the screws that will hold these rails in place permanently.